What's up, folks? What's up? What's going on? I had to, excuse me, make sure some things were in order for sure. But I am here. What's going on, folks? What is going on? Appreciate you all dropping by. If you're going to be checking on the replay gang or if you're going to be diving into it with us here tonight. Salute to my man Miter who dropped by. Says, "Oh yeah, Charley Burley was heavily feared in his era. Sucks that he either kept getting injured or sick whenever he came up against champions. He's definitely an uncrowned world champ, ruled the row without a doubt there." Salute to you, Miter. Appreciate you. Everyone go check out Miter. Been dropping gems, dialogue, and all of that stuff for a good long period of time since the beginning, I guess you can say. So check out Miter. He does some stuff on his own over there on his channel, which I believe is a gaming channel if you're into that world of gaming, which I am to a certain degree. But salute to Miter for sure. And salute to the Boz who says, "Let's go." Appreciate you dropping in, Boz. We're going indeed. Another night, another edition of boxing history every night. That's what we'll call it. And I appreciate you being here, Boz. Of course, check us out, Boz and I, on Sundays for an edition of Boxing Chit. Usually goes down at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So divide that up. Salute to Flack Boxing. Flack Boxing in the building. Be sure to check out Flack Boxing. Appreciate you being here. Flack says salute. Flack doing some things on his channel as well. Some good boxing content. He's been working. Youngster, knowledgeable of the sport, trying to make it happen. And hey, he showed the, I guess you can say, subtle genius of Jack Sharkey. He's got a good video on his channel that lets you see how Jack Sharkey was operating back in the day. And it defies that notion that those guys back in the day weren't skilled, because you'll see it firsthand right there. So appreciate your Flack. Thanks for dropping by, buddy. Salute to Mark Bergeron, who says hi there. Appreciate you, Mark. Hi there to you, Mark. Always enjoy when you drop in, Mark, dropping gems, sharing some good knowledge. So it is appreciated, Mark. No doubt about it. Thanks for being here once again. It's always great, as mentioned. Salute to Rodolfo Rivera Jr. Says, off go indeed. Check that out. That's a song right there. Rodolfo knows what the deal is. Rodolfo, you're funny. That's good stuff. I appreciate it, Rodolfo. So salute to Rodolfo in the building. And he always drops by, shows love, all that good stuff. Much respect there from a man, Rodolfo Rivera Jr. Shout out to Random Acoustic Thoughts, who says, big up to your Random Acoustic Thoughts. Be sure to check him out, folks, on his channel. We've actually been doing a discussion on some of those great fantasy matchups that talk through potential matchups between great boxers. Some you've heard before, some that were pretty intriguing and thought-provoking, very interesting type stuff. But that being said, Random Acoustic Thoughts, you can get that knowledge on the great Sam Langford, amongst others, a number of the top heavyweights from this previous era, this time frame that we're accustomed to. So be sure to check out Random Acoustic Thoughts. Oh, you know what? I'm realizing, my banner and things is not. I got to keep it 86 boxing, baby. Keeping it 86 boxing. I don't know what was going on there. But thank you, Random. So appreciate you, as always. Christian Shreve. Salute to you, Christian. Appreciate you being here, buddy. Christian says Ray Arcel said he was the best in the book trainers. That's what's up right there. Ray Arcel talking about the great Charley Burley. I'm sure some of you have heard of him. Well, everyone in here probably has heard of the great Charley Burley, but there are some folks out there who don't know the great Charley Burley. So Ray Arcel said he was the best. Appreciate you dropping that gem right there. Christian Ray Arcel, one of the great trainers that the boxing sport is, or the sport of boxing has seen. So that is high regards right there. Certainly. Hey, salute to you. Dan in the building. Dan sends his love, says Flack Boz, Boss 86. You're funny there, Dan. Appreciate you, Dan. Knowledgeable individual right there. Be sure to check out Dan. Always dropping some gems with the dialogue in the comments, all that good stuff. So appreciate you being here per usual, Dan. We're going to make this a good one, or at least the best we can. We're going to try to make it a good one for sure. Everyone's sitting there love. Yeah, it's all good stuff. Mark, you pointed out Charley Burley to me a few discussions back, and I looked him up. Good stuff there, Mark. Yeah, he had to be pointed out to me a number of years back. I don't know, this might have been about 6, 7 years ago, something like that. So I haven't always known of the great Charley Burley. So he had to be pointed out. And, we'll watch the actual video that's on the 86 Boxing channel that dives into his career. But I mentioned in that video that I was on Facebook. This is at one point, and I was chatting, and I mentioned that, hey, does anyone have better feints than Sugar Ray Leonard? I was just thinking of Sugar Ray Leonard at that particular time, and someone mentioned Charley Burley, so I checked him out and was hooked from there. The great Charley Burley, representing Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Isn't that a town of champions? Isn't that a town of top-level great boxers? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Charley Burley, another addition to that list of Pittsburgh fighters. He was born in Bessemer, Pennsylvania, but certainly representing Pittsburgh along with the likes of the Harry Grabbs of the world, the Billy Kahns, etc. Kristen says, the book says Robinson Zale Khan outright ducked him. Hey, interesting run right there. Interesting. Yeah, we're going to get into that for sure, Kristen. Yeah, because there were some who didn't seem to want to go up against Charley Burley at his best. They knew it would be a nightmare to deal with, and it also could have meant not looking good and suffering a loss at that. So that is something that is legitimate. Even the great Sugar Ray Robinson, everyone knows him, right? Everyone knows Sugar Ray Robinson, but he was someone who you would have thought he would have laced it up with Charley Burley. It didn't happen. Let's think about why. Why did that not happen? It's very interesting. Very interesting. So we'll see. Smash the like button, please. Oh, appreciate you, Tyro Raymond. Appreciate you dropping in here, Tyro. Certainly. Hey, it's a good thing as always. Again, we're talking about the great Charley Burley, who is coming through, or who is one of the great boxers, one of the uncrowned champions, one of those that we haven't seen, or one of those that never won a title, but we haven't seen as much of him because of the fact that there is only a little bit of footage on him. There's not really much footage, but there is some footage. It's a limited amount. We do have footage of the great Charley Burley, though. And this is a contest between him and Oakland Billy Smith, who was a top flight contender from the time, who mixed it up with a number of top level boxers over the course of that period as well. So Charley Burley, a part of Black Murderers Row. Some of you may have heard of that, right? Black Murderers Row. That was a contingent of black fighters who they had to go up against each other a number of times. They were really going at each other. When I say that, exchanging wins and losses. These were a contingent of some of the absolute best in their divisions, in or around their divisions. So you'll see that there were an assortment of contests between all of them as they were fighting each other, Charley Burley being one of those individuals. So once you see his resume, if you haven't seen his resume, it's certainly one worthwhile. You'll see that he was in there with some of the absolute best that the sport has seen, especially around that same period where a number of these great black fighters were in their prime. Not many of them got a title shot. Some of them actually got a title shot past their prime weight, or they had to move up with the likes of Ezra Charles. And you think about Archie Moore, another one. But great assortment of fighters. But we're going to speak on that. My top fantasy matchups, Tristan says Burley versus Langford. That would be a hell of a fight right there. Hell of a chess match, I think. Because Burley, I think, would probably look to outbox him to avoid some of that heavy stuff coming from Sam Langford, who we know packs heavy artillery. But it would be a heck of a fight, if you ask me. A heck of a fight. Burley versus Langford. One to ponder. Hard to call. Hard to say who would win such. I'm pretty fond of the great Charley Burley. He had to deal with Sam Langford's power, and of course at middleweight, Langford I think would be very formidable. So it would be a tough one for sure right there. Not quite an answer though, right? Salute to my mom dropping in. Wants to get some of this Charley Burley love. Wants to join in on it. Appreciate you. Says hello, son. Bring it. Gonna bring it on. Appreciate you dropping by. Charley Burley, representing Pennsylvania. So he's one of those boxers who never won a world title, but probably should have or probably could have had the opportunity been just right, and came at the time that it probably should have come, but it didn't. So Mark Bergeron says the essence of what I gather is that the adage boxing is a game of inches or centimeters if you're on the metric system applies to this man as well. Indeed. When you see him operating there in the ring, then you understand the genius of one Charley Burley. I mean, some of the best feints that the sport has seen, and we can see that firsthand in his contest with Oakland Billy Smith. We do have on footage. That's one of the big things in terms of some of the boxers when we think about some of these great competitors that we've seen, them not having footage or whatnot. We do have a little bit on him. It doesn't take much. We still have accounts, and we know what was done. We know the fights that he participated in. So that adds to the overall fervor of a fighter as well. So we know that Charley Burley is one of those guys. Game of inches, timing, excelente. I mean, distance, excellent. He had pretty much all the tricks up his sleeve defensively. He could move, flip punches, counter, all of that good stuff. I mean, truly a remarkably skilled fighter. And I'll throw him in the mix with any of these modern guys. When we say the game has evolved, tell that to Charley Burley. Salute to Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Says salute. Appreciate you, Bruce. Thanks for dropping in, Bruce. Always enjoy having Bruce drop into the mix. And be sure to check Bruce out. Drops a lot of good content over there on his end. Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. We had a great conversation not too long ago. As a matter of fact, he was on the channel, so be sure to check that out. But certainly salute to Bruce Gas. Everyone give him a like and subscribe because you will enjoy the content that he's putting out there. Top level stuff, without a doubt. Salute to Andre Rodriguez holding it down, representing Portugal. Good stuff, Andre. Good evening to you. Of course, everyone in the chat, salute to you. Everyone, as always. So, yeah, getting through some of those comments, and, they come in. It's crazy. Mark Bergeron says defense was subtle, drawing you just enough to get you on the return. What boxing should be about. Certainly. If you enjoy the finer skills of the sport, he is most certainly one of those individuals. Mark says, always good to learn something new. Indeed. Maybe some gems will be dropped here, Mark. Some gems that even I don't know. But there's so much tied to those guys like Charley Burley, especially just those individuals who were in Black Murderers Road, that they're just probably some gems and nuggets out there that, of course, I know that I don't know of, and probably some others will maybe be able to drop some in some in some aspect. So Mark Bergeron, a member of the infamous Black Murderers Road. So who should I look up next? Hey, there are a ton of them. They're so great. You will know that you'll know the likes of Archie Moore and Edgar Charles, I'm sure. But look up someone like Coco Kid. Herbert Lewis Hardwick is his name. He's one who had a ton of fights. He was actually the last person to defeat Kid Kaplan. If you look at the Kid Kaplan video, and I know we did a discussion on Kid Kaplan, who was a featherweight champion who moved up to lightweight, but he ended his career in a loss with Coco Kid later in his career, but early in Coco Kid's career. So that is one that is certainly worth looking up. And then maybe Burley's greatest rival, you could argue, Holman Williams. He is someone who is definitely one you will want to check out because he was a very good technical boxer, tough fighter, scrappy fighter. And he and Charley Burley, they seem to mesh up well stylistically. So he is one worth checking out there, Mark. Dan, one white member of Murderers Row, Jake LaMotta, fought mostly the great black fighter because of because he wasn't mob control, couldn't get certain fight. He always said he loved being in the row. Indeed, the great Jake LaMotta. I put that actual matchup on the post. I posted that, as a matter of fact, on the channel. Fantasy matchup between Jake LaMotta and Charley Burley, which would have been a very good one. Dan says, made more money the way he kept the money. No mob. His biggest fights were black in Detroit, and it was his adopted hometown. The black fans loved him because of his style. Indeed, yeah, Jake LaMotta is one of those tough fighters, very skilled fighter as well. If you look at him, yeah, I don't think it was just all Raging Bull. He was actually a skilled fighter as well who, hey, he could give anyone a run, and he had the competition, he had the experience, the amount of fights on his side as well. So he is legit without a doubt. But you're right there, Dan. Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull. I still need to see that movie. I still need to see that movie there, The Raging Bull, but Jake LaMotta is certainly one of those. And he and Charley Burley, that would have been an interesting one. Some interesting quotes there on Charley Burley as well from Jake LaMotta. Christian says, five night in 1944, Futch recalls featherweight or future light heavyweight Archie Moore was scheduled to fight in Hollywood, California, and then an opponent dropped out. They needed a substitute, so they called Charley Burley down. We know what that means. When you call Charley Burley, you're going to be in for something. You're going to be in for a fight without a doubt there, Kristen. The boss says, the boss. Foot says he was on the job, went home, got his gear, hopped on a bus, came up the 125 miles to Hollywood, the 125 miles, went into the ring and gave Archie Moore a good 10-round licking. Trainers, page 331. Awesome stuff right there. You hear that, folks? Awesome stuff. Christian Shreve, yeah. The great Eddie Futch, another top-level trainer out there in the history of the sport, but he even mentions this. And Archie Moore, we know who Archie Moore is, right? We know that he is one of the greats that the sport has seen. Pretty much one of the 10 greatest boxers the sport has seen when you look at the totality of his resume and all that stuff. So think about Charley Burley going up against the likes of Archie Moore and just being able to outbox him. And you could say outclass him in some sense there. And, styles make fights, but it's just that Charley Burley, a.k.a. Black Dynamite, he was able to do his thing against the great Archie Moore. So one of those amazing things right there. But yeah, so yeah, we can certainly jump into it. But as mentioned, Charley Burley, born in Bessemer, Pennsylvania, representing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, great fighting town, great fighting city. You name it, you name it in terms of just some of the fighters that have come out of there, as I've mentioned, and he is one to kind of just add to the mix there. But Pennsylvania in general is a state that has bred some of the greatest fighters that boxing has ever seen. You could argue probably number one in that regard. You think about it, and I've talked about that before. Pennsylvania, what state has produced more just world-class fighters, world-class champions? Seems to be Pennsylvania. I can't think of a state that has produced more. There's some other ones out there that sort of give them a run for the money. California, of course, New York. Yeah, those are three that probably I would throw up there. I mean, Massachusetts, I guess in some sense they have, but just the total amount, just thinking total amount of champions and states and who would have produced more, man, it's hard to think of any state other than Pennsylvania. That seems to be the lead running state right now until someone can mention otherwise. Minnesota's had some great fighters. Michigan, certainly. Alabama has had some good ones. But just thinking about the sheer number of fighters either out of Philadelphia or they set up Philadelphia as their home, became Philly fighters, or just Pennsylvania in general. I know Philly is on my mind too, because Philly is probably, you could argue, numero uno, but just think about it. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, etc. Pennsylvania. I've spent some time in Pennsylvania, going there on a routine basis. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Shippensburg, Chambersburg, going through all those little spots. Pennsylvania, hey, interesting state. Used to go there, go through there heading to Canada as well. One of those things. The boss says you started. We got a glass of juice and got to chat, and I missed it. Oh yes, indeed. There, the vibes. Yeah, we started chatting. Mark Bergeron said, "I got this from Wikipedia. Murderers Row, Schober's list. Eddie Booker. Oh yeah, Eddie Booker, Charley Burley, Jack Chase, Burt Lytell, Lloyd Marshall. Yep, Lloyd Marshall for sure. Burt Lytell, this is someone Charley Burley went up against a little bit later in his career. Lloyd Marshall, did he go up against Lloyd? I think he might have went up. Yeah, he did go up against Lloyd Marshall. He fought pretty much all of them. Jack Chase, yep. Eddie Booker, he might have went up against Eddie Booker. We're going to find out. I know I did know off top at one point, but I think he did go up against Eddie Booker, but I'm not 100% positive. But all the other guys, for sure, he did go up against them. But as mentioned, we're going to check out some vid on it, and we'll get an understanding for sure of who all he mixed it up with. Great fighters like Tommy Bell, twice LaMotta beat both Sugar Ray Robinson five times or six. LaMotta KO Satterfield, 3 times Jimmy Reed, 2 times Norman Hayes, 2 times Gene Hardison. Burley, no, yeah. He and Burley never fought. Burley never fought either of these great Murderers Row members. LaMotta beat them. Burley was in there with them. Burley was in there with the Black Murderers Row for sure. He was in there with them. Christian Tree, other fighter from that period. The Charley Burley, who called the finest all-around fighter I ever saw. That is pretty dope right there. That speaks volumes. Just recovering from a case of flu. Oh, my goodness. You get well, boys. You get well. The flu, hold up. You got to hold it down, man. You get well for sure. We send our regards. No joke right there. No joke. Dan Burley never fought. Oh, yeah, we saw that. No, he did. He didn't fight those guys you mentioned, but when it comes to Black Murderers Row, he was in there with them. Alrighty. Yeah. Satterfield, one of the worst chins ever. Bob Satterfield. I know of Bob Satterfield. Worst chins, huh? Let us remember that the champion Fritzy Zivic bought his contract so he would never have to fight him again. Had this ever happened since? Oh, yeah, that is a good one. That is crazy that could happen right there. But I know of that whole situation with Fritzy Zivic. Fritzy Zivic know what it was like to deal with the great Charley Burley. We know Fritzy Zivic, right? But yeah, that is very interesting. I don't know of it. I don't know of a situation like that, Christian. But yeah, very interesting right there that he was able to do so. Salute, Facebook user. Salute to you. Paul Bright, appreciate you being in here, Paul. Thanks for dropping by. What are you talking about? Dan Burley fought just about everyone on Murderers Row and beat most of them, without a doubt there. Salute to you, Paul Bright. Salute. Appreciate you dropping in, buddy. Indeed, we're talking about the great Charley Burley, him doing his thing. Yeah. Debod says, where's my favorite boxing fan? Blake Gulliver. Where's Blake? Yeah. So, yeah, get well there, Boz. But anyway, yeah, the great Charley Burley is who we're speaking of. So Charley Burley, as I mentioned, he was born September 6, 1917. Bessemer, Pennsylvania. The 5'9", 75-inch reach. His record, 83, 12-2 with 50 knockouts. Fought primarily between welterweight and middleweight, so he ended up going between the two. And, oftentimes you had to do what you had to do to take the fights there. That meant sometimes moving up and taking on guys who were bigger. So he was no stranger to such. And we got to see that from Charley Burley. And we know of other fighters who went through similar scenarios. It was just sort of a dog-eat-dog world there. And you had to fight. That's how you got paid. That's how you ended up being able to fund all of those things that you wanted to do in life. That's how you got by. That's how you ate. So if that meant going up against someone bigger or taking a fight on short notice, then it is what it is. It was the payday that made it happen, and you couldn't miss it in most cases. Even to this point, it's always a situation where you hate to see when fighters get to the point where they put in a lot of this work in training and all, but then a fight gets canceled or something of that nature because there's just so much that has gone into it. So not unsimilar A lot of work goes into it. You had to fight to get paid, and that's the way they operated. So you'd oftentimes put yourself in situations where it probably wasn't the best. But hey, the bright lights always shine through. The boss says Burley was a guy who gets lots of love, and he never fought for a world title. That's pretty much all I know. Certainly, I think individuals are pretty fond of the skill set of one Charley Burley, because he was one of these individuals who, much like, I guess, if you were on top, if you were a man on the throne, man or woman on the throne, and you held the title, and you had your choice of who you want to go up against. Say we push the mandatory aside, there are options out there. Charley Burley was one of those guys that stylistically you might not have necessarily wanted to go up against, because it was going to be work. It was going to be a lot of work. It was going to be work for the duration of the bout, because as Kristen pointed out, some of those things, or Mark, I think it was pointed out some of the stylistic stuff with Charley Burley. He just had a style that made it tough for you to land on him, especially land anything cleanly. And he was so sharp, quick in the ring. Footwork was excellent. Timing was excellent, that you're just going to be in for a tough night. And in all likelihood, it was going to go to the cards, unless you could get him out of there with something huge, clip him or whatever it may be. In all likelihood, it would end up going to the cards, and dealing with him over the course of a long fight meant that you had your work cut out. So you had to come in ready to go the distance. You had to come in trained at your top tier level, because you knew that it was just going to be a heck of a night just trying to get this guy out of here. And that's what you got with Burley. Why it was highly regarded from a skill set perspective. He could just pretty much mix it up and do it all. And he had enough pop to get the job done when he needed to. So you saw him mention the 50 knockouts. So he was an excellent boxer, but he could get those guys out of there for sure. Dan said the great black fighters are named the Buds. He didn't fight. Some of them. But the core Black Murderers Row, he did fight there, Dan. Semper Fi, Paul Bright. Semper Fi to you. Shout out to the veterans out there. Shout out to my fellow Marines out there holding it down. Semper Fidelis. You know what it means. Semper Fidelis. Appreciate you, Paul, without a doubt. Yeah. Hey, you're right. You can't fight everybody. I believe Jimmy Bivens fought Burley. I may be wrong. No, you're right there, boss. Jimmy Bivens, the Cleveland Spider-Man, another one of those great fighters from that period. So Burley did mix it up with him, as a matter of fact. Now, that's a guy I like to talk about, Cleveland Spider-Man Villiers. I had a request to do a video on the Spider-Man Cleveland, or Jimmy Bivens, actually, the Cleveland Spider-Man. And I may do it at some point. I've looked into it and may very well do it at some point. But yeah, denied the chance of the world title. Of course, like all of the other ones, had to move up in weight. So that was a part of it. As well. You definitely had a contingent of those guys who, man, they were just some of the best. They had to move up. They had to fight each other. And that's one of the interesting things about it. How did Jimmy Bivens get the nickname Spider-Man before Spider-Man was even a thing? Maybe from climbing those walls, those webs there, Rodolfo. But no, I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. That's a good question. Maybe someone knows. I don't know. How did Jimmy Bivens get the name the Cleveland Spider-Man? Well, of course, we know the Cleveland part. But the Spider-Man, that is an interesting one. But he was the Spider-Man before the Spider-Man, so that makes sense. Now, diving into the career of Charley Burley, that is, as I mentioned, Black Murderers Row. The core members and contingent fought each other 62 times between the group. That's diving into that. That's pretty crazy just thinking about it. 62 times between each other. They were just beating each other over and over, beating each other. You had to do what you had to do. The boss says after Bivens whooped Gus Lesnovich, Gus' manager says there's no way you let him fight again for the title. Yeah. Not surprised right there. And just Gus Lesnovich, very good fighter, solid fighter, light heavyweight champion, of course. Gus Lesnovich. Yeah, he beat Freddie Mills. I was watching that. That's probably the last Gus Lesnovich fight I saw. Lesnovich Freddie Mills, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Freddie Mills, the great Freddie Mills. We know, some things with his story, but pretty crazy. But yeah, so Charley Burley, he was in there with them all. Dan says Burley was so great it's unbelievable, but I'm glad he didn't get more fights. He got a good job. City of Pittsburgh and lived to 75. Cool. Yeah, Charley Burley. Shout out to Scrapbook Boxing. I know he knew of Charley Burley. Has some stuff on his channel. And as a matter of fact, he's actually spoke with Charley Burley when he was alive, at least. Scrapbook Boxing has been around the sport of boxing for a long period of time. He actually spoke with the man himself, Charley Burley. Got some of those inside nuggets. I know he shares some of that on his channel, so certainly worth checking out there. Lesnovich was world champion at 175. Indeed, Gus Lesnovich. But yeah, certainly. But yeah, all these guys, man, they could just mix it up well. I was thinking diving into the Charley Burley aspect. How about we just show it on video? I mean, this is probably the more optimal way of showing it right now, and then we'll dive into it. This is just an opportunity. So if you have some time, we're going to go on a little Charley Burley lesson here by virtue of this particular video. Let's see here. This is on the 80.
We're in the year 2022, and when it comes to boxing, everything is bigger, stronger, faster, and better. The heavyweights are taller and more muscled and punch harder than anyone ever. The smaller weight fighters have blazing fast speed we've never seen. The sport is more challenging than ever. 12 rounds is a lifetime, and only the strongest survive. Now, for those truly listening, this is all sarcasm. Some things may be true. We may have athletes who are bigger and stronger by some standards, but better, I question that. And when someone says that every boxer today is better than every boxer of the past, I retort one word. Charley Burley is one amongst a slew of other elite fighters of the past who defies said notion. His overall skill and style are a thing of beauty. Charley Burley was born on September 6, 1917 in Bessemer, Pennsylvania. He stood 5'9" with a 75-inch reach. He had a record of 83 wins, 12 losses, and 2 draws. He had 50 wins via knockout. He primarily fought in the welterweight and middleweight divisions. Burley was a part of Black Murderers Row, a contingent of black boxers who were largely ignored by the champions of their day and had to fight each other over and over 62 times between the group of them. Despite being passed over for title shots, they were regarded as the best fighters in their division. This included fighters like Archie Moore, Coco Kidd, Holman Williams, Burt Lytle, and many other great black fighters. Of the entire crew, Burley was regarded as the best pure boxer of the bunch. I once asked on social media whether there was any boxer with better feints than the great Sugar Ray Leonard. The name I got back that stood out was Charley Burley. This was my introduction. Feinting is a form of deception to make a fighter think you're going to do one thing but counter with the opposite. This is through movement and punching. While there isn't much footage of Burley out there in the archives, from the footage we do have, you can witness him deploying this tactic at the highest of levels. Burley's ability to change levels is almost unmatched. His flashes of brilliance depict just why his peers often rated him highly. Burley started his career off 12-0 before dropping an 8-round decision to Eddie Dolan on September 9, 1937. Not long after that, Burley would step in the ring with Hall of Fame former world welterweight champion, the Croak Comet, Fritzy Zivik, on March 21, 1938. Zivik would win a split decision over 10 rounds with 2 judges scoring in his favor while the referee scored in Burley's favor for having landed the cleaner punches. Burley would have an opportunity to exact revenge on Fritzy Zivik a couple of months later when on June 13, 1938, the two faced off in a return bout. Burley's jab led him to a close but unanimous decision over the game Zivik, who could not land cleanly on Burley. After an August 2, 1938 win over contender Leon Zarita, Burley would step in with his first Black Murderers Row opponent, Herbert Lewis Hardwick, better known as Coco Kidd. Coco Kidd came into the bout with 130 plus fights under his belt. Burley outdueled the wily veteran and picked up a 15-round unanimous decision victory to become the new world colored welterweight champion. On November 21st, 1938, Burley would win a 10-round decision over future world middleweight champion and Hall of Famer Billy Seuss. Burley would go into a 2-fight run with 140-plus fight veteran and contender Jimmy Leto. The first contest took place on June 20th, 1939. Burley got off to a slow start after a 5-month layoff, and Leto used his stinging left to keep Burley at bay. Leto would win a split decision over the 10 rounds. The two wouldn't have to wait very long for the rematch as they were back in the saddle on August 28th. Burley would use his known savviness to pick up a 10-round points victory to even the series. Prior to this fight, Burley had again outpointed Fritzy Zivik when they met on July 7th, dominating the 10-round contest to show his superior skill set. This led to his first of several meetings with fellow Black Murderers Row alum Holman Williams on December 1st, 1939 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Burley looked to be in unbeatable form as he dropped Williams 3 times in the 4th round. Williams found his groove and won nearly every round after that in a dominant second half of the fight. Williams would pick up the 15-round decision victory. Burley would move up a division to take on former world middleweight title challenger Georgie Abrams on July 29, 1940, fighting to a draw despite many in attendance feeling he deserved the nod. Burley would then pick up a 10-round unanimous decision over Kenny LaSalle on August 19th. On September 3rd, 1940, Burley would meet 14-0 Jimmy the Cleveland Spider-Man Bivens, another fellow Black Murderers Row alum, in a middleweight scrap in Pennsylvania. Burley got off to a slow start and Bivens racked up points over the early part of the fight by cleanly connecting and controlling the action. Burley rallied late and even had Bivens hurt in the final round, but couldn't overcome the lackluster early showing, and Bivens won a 10-round unanimous decision. Burley would get back to his winning ways, picking up a 10-round points victory over contender Eddie Pierce in October 1940. He stopped O.C. Harris in 9 rounds in June of 1941 before stopping young Gene Buffalo in 5 rounds in July. In September, he then picked up a 10-round points victory over former middleweight champion of South America, Antonio Fernandez. Burley would stop 160-plus fight veteran Jackie Burke in January of 1942. On February 26, 1942, Burley would have a second meeting with Hall of Fame welterweight and middleweight great Holman Williams in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Burley would be in top form and dominated Williams for most of the contest to pick up a 10-round decision and a 23rd straight win. He also submitted himself as the true number 1 contender for the welterweight championship of the world, though the title shot would never come. On May 25th, 1942, Burley would step in the ring for a middleweight contest in his first meeting with Hall of Fame future world heavyweight champion, the Cincinnati Cobra Ezzard Charles in Pittsburgh. Burley was the favorite, but Charles showed that he too was to become one of the greats of the sport's history. Charles took the first 2 rounds convincingly, and Burley did the same for the third. Charles nearly knocked out Burley in the 4th round and continued to show his class from there, though Burley did start to rip hard looping rights in the latter portion of the fight to trouble Charles. Charles would send Burley to a knee in the 10th round for a 3 count. Charles would win a unanimous decision victory in 10 rounds. Less than a month later, on June 23rd, Burley would be back in the ring with Holman Williams in a middleweight clash in Cincinnati. This was a hotly contested fight, though Burley had the edge all the way through and picked up another 10-round unanimous decision victory. 20-year-old Ezzard Charles proved his win over Charley Burley wasn't a fluke when on June 29, 1942, he again won a 10-round unanimous decision in their middleweight rematch. Burley was game throughout, but the larger Charles used his power to keep the elusive and slick Burley on the outside looking in, barely giving up rounds. Burley would gain his most definitive victory over Holman Williams on August 14, 1942, when the two met in a middleweight contest in New Orleans. Burley would stop Williams in the 9th of a scheduled 15 rounds. Burley put on a masterful boxing display, battering Williams to the body through the early portion of the fight. Burley closed Williams' right eye with a hard left cross in the 6th round. Burley then sent the bloody Williams through the ropes in the 9th, forcing the referee to call the fight to save Williams from further punishment. With the victory, Burley picked up the colored world middleweight championship. The two would be back in the ring again on October 16th. They would commence in a more tactical fight, with each choosing to box more, limiting any sustained exchanges. Williams would regain the edge as he was able to outpoint Burley over the 15 rounds to take the world-colored middleweight championship. On December 11th, 1942, Burley would step in the ring with another great Black Murderers Row middleweight and Hall of Famer, Lloyd Marshall, in Hollywood, California. Marshall would send Burley to the canvas in the 1st round and again in the 4th before picking up a split decision victory over the 10 rounds. Burley took on another elite Black Murderers Row middleweight in Jack Chase on February 19th, 1943 in Hollywood. Burley dropped Chase with a hard right in the 2nd round, rocking the steady competitor. Chase was able to answer the count at 9. Burley himself tasted the canvas in the 4th, but sent Chase to a knee later in the fight before picking up a non-contested unanimous decision, having only lost 1 round of the 10. Burley was in tough again in his next fight on March 3rd when he stepped in with Black Murderers Row middleweight Aaron Wade for a 10-round contest in Oakland. In what was a slow but closely contested fight, Burley gained the edge and won the decision. Burley would return to New Orleans on April 19th to take on old foe Coco Kid. A sharp right-to-left combo sent Coco Kid to the canvas in the 2nd round, though he popped up immediately. The two battled close for the remainder of the contest, with it ending as a draw after 10 rounds, though some newspapers favored Burley for the nod. Quickly, before we move on, if you enjoy this type of content, please do us a favor and like and subscribe. This will help us to continue to bring this type of content to you. Burley was back in with Holman Williams on May 14th, though the fight was ruled a no contest in the 10th after a lack of activity from both fighters. Burley would again defeat Aaron Wade on March 24th, 1944, winning a 10-round unanimous decision before stepping back in with Jack Chase for a California State middleweight title contest on April 6th. Burley dominated Chase, dropping him in the 4th before sending him face first to the canvas in the 9th for a knockout victory. On April 21st, 1944, Burley would take on former and longest reigning world light heavyweight champion, the Hall of Famer, the old mongoose Archie Moore in Hollywood. Burley would send Moore to the canvas for a 5 count in the 1st, an 8 count in the 3rd, and a 7 count in the 4th. Burley would routinely hurt Moore through the remainder of the fight, though he could not stop the durable fighter. Burley would pick up a 10-round points victory. After again stopping young Gene Buffalo in 5 rounds on August 8th, 1944, Burley would step back in the ring with Jack Chase on September 11th. Burley battered Chase all over the ring throughout the contest before stopping him in the 12th round to pick up a TKO victory, his 3rd over Chase. Burley would defeat formidable contender Joe Carter on March 12, 1945, picking up a 10-round points victory. Burley and Holman Williams would meet for the final time on July 11, 1945 in Buffalo, New York. Williams was the busier fighter in the contest and outpointed Burley over the latter portion of the fight to win a 12-round unanimous decision. Burley would again defeat Aaron Wade via a 10-round decision on August 20th, 1945. This led to 2 meetings with Oakland Billy Smith. The first took place on October 8th, 1945 in San Francisco, with Burley picking up a 10-round decision victory. The second fight took place on April 24th, 1946 in Oakland. This is currently the only surviving film of Charley Burley in action. While he wasn't at his absolute peak and with Smith routinely clinching and holding the faster Burley, it's clear to see the level of skill that Charley Burley possessed as he wins another 10-round decision over Smith. In what were the final 2 major matchups of his career, Burley would take on fellow Black Murderers Row alum Burt Lytell. The first fight took place on August 5th, 1946. Burley would get the better of Lytell on this night, winning a unanimous decision over 10 rounds. The two would rematch on February 17th, 1947. Burley had his moments during the fight, but Burt Lytell would win the 10-round unanimous decision on this night. Burley would fight on through 1950 before hanging up the gloves for good. There were points in his career where Burley was viewed as the best welterweight in the world, as well as the best middleweight in the world, even though he often weighed well under the middleweight limit. Burley, though, was also one of the most avoided fighters in boxing history, and therefore he was never able to gain a shot at either the world welterweight or world middleweight titles. Burley is arguably the greatest boxer to never win a major world title. His career was overshadowed by many of his contemporaries for years, but the boxing world has slowly but surely started to realize the talent and level of greatness of this fighter. With that, his name lives on in history, and stylistically, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone smoother.
Woo! There we go, folks. Appreciate you who stayed here and checked that out as we went through the video that dove somewhat into the career of the great Charley Burley. I mean, what better way to tell it than that? I mean, it gave you some of the tidbits of how he went about his operations, who he was in against, and you get to understand why he was considered to be one of the greats. You saw that Holman Williams is probably his greatest rival. Generally, when you have boxers from these varying eras, I guess pretty much any era, there is often a rival or a great rival. In the case of Charley Burley, 7 fights between he and Holman Williams. So I would say that was probably his number one rival right there, just given that they shared the ring for such a good amount of times. Now, that's one of the things we talk about, or at least I've heard. I know I talk about it here and there with some of the fights we see today, getting some of those rivalries in. You don't see it as much. You think with a Spence Crawford, which is going to be coming up, then that would be cool if it turned into like a multi-fight rivalry. But we'd also not be surprised if that doesn't happen, because there have been cases where it didn't happen. We've seen some great fighters have rematches, but rarely, at least these days, do we get into those 4th, 5th, 6th fights, especially a 6th fight, but generally just getting to that 4th fight, and in some cases the 3rd, 4th fight, or it happens at a time when at least one of the fighters isn't quite the same. But getting some of those types of rivalries while fighters are in their prime, that is a pretty remarkable thing. And we've gotten it in some of the lower weights as well. You just think about it. So it does happen, but back then it was happening very often. So Holman Williams, one of those individuals who took Charley Burley to that next level. You saw they exchanged the colored world middleweight title. So that just shows you a high level of competition, a high level of operation between the two as they were going through these contests. Mark says, got a lot of new names to look up. Thanks. No problem. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for being here in the mix. Excuse me, certainly. But yeah, a lot of names on there. You saw that with Charley Burley. You saw the names you're familiar with. Archie Moore. He beat him twice. Archie Moore couldn't defeat Charley Burley, but by that same token, we saw Ezzard Charles. Charley Burley couldn't defeat Ezzard Charles. It's kind of crazy how that worked. Just think about it from a stylistic standpoint. And we know that Moore and Charles were familiar with each other, but Charley Burley couldn't overcome Ezzard Charles. So think about that. We've talked about Ezzard Charles briefly at varying points, but Ezzard Charles really was probably at his best at middleweight. Just think about how good Ezzard Charles is. If he was at his best at middleweight, maybe even like heavyweight, you can have arguments, certainly. You can make arguments for either. And then we know what he was able to do at heavyweight world champion. That's where he won the title at, but certainly capable of being middleweight champion, capable of being like heavyweight champion. As I understand it, one of the main reasons for moving up was for the opportunity, because he wasn't getting it there where he was at. And that's pretty amazing. So Charley Burley was in there with Ezzard Charles as a middleweight who had that promise, and you could see was going to be something special in the sport. mixed it up there with Archie Moore, as I mentioned. Archie Moore, probably, Benny Hold'em in regards as the greatest light heavyweight of all time. He's certainly up there. Just think about that. Archie Moore. So Charley Burley mixed it up with this guy, Fritzy Zivic, former world welterweight champion. Am I correct? Welterweight champion, Fritzy Zivic? Or am I wrong? Did he win the title? I need to look that up. Fritzy Zivic, former world welterweight. Oh, yeah, that is right. That is right. He is a former world welterweight champion, Fritzy Zivic, that is. A well-traveled fighter right there. Someone threw something out there. Oh, Fritzy, yeah, dirty Fritzy. But Fritzy, he was known to be one of these super crafty fighters. Some would say dirty, some would say crafty. But he was one who, he knew the tricks of the trade in the ring to slip some things in while the referee wasn't looking or was on the blind side, or he just slip them in any way he could get them. And that's one of the things that was tied to him. So Fritzy Zivic, certainly someone worth looking up. I intend to do a video on him at some point. But Fritzy Zivic, former world welterweight champion. So Charley Burley in there with him. Beat him. Fritzy got him the first time around. And then, as someone mentioned, I think it was Christian, Fritzy Zivic, ended up buying Burley's contract, something of that nature, which is pretty crazy, right? To think about the ability to do so. So, on the business side, Burley was getting the short end of the stick, I guess you could say, considering such that Fritzy Zivic was able to buy his contract. And, you talk about great fighters. Hey, that's why these great fighters, or that's why it's good to see these fighters get their due. When they get paid, hey, get them paid. They're putting on these great contests, especially those who are mixing it up with the best of the best. They deserve to get paid, certainly, to a degree where, their rival doesn't have to buy, or a proposed rival doesn't have to buy their contract. That's pretty crazy to think about that happening. But yeah, Boz says Freddie was all guts and heart, short but strong and tough like heavyweight. Certainly, Freddie Mills, the Brit, one of the best. Boz, well, he wasn't that short, but for a light heavyweight, he was indeed. Nice size on him, nice size and girth to him, Freddie. That is a warrior in the ring right there. Shout out to Henry Discombobulating Jones. He's an announcer out of D.C. area. His slogan, Warriors to the ring, Warriors to the ring. Discombobulating. But yeah, so Charley Burley, you saw that he was in there with some of the guys that I mentioned. Of course, that wasn't it. I mean, Burley, let's look at some other names there that were on his resume. Georgie Abrams. That name sounds familiar to you, all right? Georgie Abrams. He was a top-level contender there during the period. Middleweight. Contender for the middleweight championship, at least that's what it's mentioned. Another guy with a pretty solid resume was in there with some very solid competition as well. Tony Zell. Let me see. Coco Kid, he was in there with him. Lou Brouillard. I think I got that right. Brouillard. Yeah, something to that tune, but you know the name, Lou Brouillard. So he was in there with him as well. So that just goes to show, he's just top flight type of individual as well. So Charley Burley was in there with him. Let's look at the other names. Jimmy Vivens, who we mentioned, of course, the Cleveland Spider-Man. We were kind of discussing him and some of the individuals he went up against during his career. Another one of those guys who could have potentially been champion, didn't quite get that shot. Would have been great to have gotten it. Lloyd Marshall, another one considered a Black Murderers Row alum. He's one of those individuals who was a top flight boxer. He just so happened to be from Georgia, but looks like he spent time in Cleveland as well. But he was in there with the likes of Ken Overland. You know Ken Overland, right? Seferino Garcia. Man, you talking about the names, heavy hitters in the sport. Just big time right there, big time. Joey Maxim. These are the individuals that Lloyd Marshall was in, just to name a few, of course, but certainly more. Salute to Boz. Hit some knock. Appreciate you. Says here, see, bro. Appreciate you, Boz. Much love to my man Boz. Just sit over some knock over here. Noke. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But you are appreciated, but man, the Bods holding it down. Again, check out the Bods on the boxing shit, holding it down. Holding it down on Sundays. Appreciate my man Boz there with the super chat. Salute. Brouillard was top class. Indeed, there, Boz. Indeed. Graziano, I think, fought George Abrams. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know he's in there with Zale, but yeah, maybe even Rocky Graziano. So Georgie Abrams, man, well-traveled fighter right there. That's another guy that Burley was in there with. Graziano. Yeah, I need to as well. I need to check out that movie. Somebody up there like me or something like that. Somewhere up there. I forget the name of it. But I mentioned on the last stream, I did check out Gentleman Jim. Ken Overland is one of the most underrated. Certainly, Ken Overland. Look him up, folks. These are all top flight names right here. Ken Overland. That's another guy who, well, he was in there with Lloyd Marshall, actually. But top flight guy right there. Hey, but I saw Gentleman Jim. I don't know, the Boz, if you've seen that. Dan, I'm not sure. You may have seen it, but the movie Gentleman Jim, I thought it was very good. And I mentioned this the last time as well. But, 1942, man, it was a good movie. It's a good movie. And it had some pretty solid accounts as well. They had it, kind of how I remembered it for some of those accounts. They wrote it to have a love interest and all that type stuff. But that being said, very good movie. We got to see Gentleman Jim in there doing his thing. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Mark Bergeron says, always liked Ezzard Charles. Prime Ezzard was truly one of the greatest pound for pound in history. However, like most fighters, he went on too long, unfortunately. Certainly, Mark, yeah, that tends to happen. It's unfortunate, but it certainly tends to happen. Just think about Ezzard Charles, as I was saying, just what he was able to accomplish, at middleweight, and then, of course, moving up to heavyweight. Wasn't a natural heavyweight, but that being said, he was able to put in a lot of good work there at heavyweight. He got a win over Joe Louis, the great Joe Louis there at heavyweight, later in Lewis's career. But that being said, still a great win there for Ezzard Charles, who wasn't naturally a middleweight or a heavyweight. But you're right there, Mark. Yeah, one of the greatest underrated fighter right there. You just think about the list. If you just had a list of just here are some of the greatest fighters ever, period. Talking about some of the top boxers in the world, period, bar none, across all weight divisions. Ezzard Charles needs to be in there for sure. He needs to be in there. Very underrated fighter there, Mark. Appreciate you sharing that. The Boss says, Errol Flynn. Yes, never really seen it. Only a brief clip of it. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was a good one. The Boss, it was a good one. It accounts for some pretty solid stuff on Gentleman Jim. And, I was watching it, and I was thinking to myself, okay, let me see if they're going to get some things right. Am I going to get into it? But I did. Worthwhile. Certainly worthwhile. It was pretty cool. Maybe overdue for an update. You never know. Or a part 2. Let's make it happen. Overland was a great fighter, a middleweight champion, and awesome. Good stuff, Dan. Appreciate you sharing such. Yeah, Ken Overland. I need to dive into more on Ken Overland. I know about him for sure. I know he's a top flight boxer. Certainly more. Mark Bergeron, for my money, Charles gave Marciano his toughest fights. Hey, yeah, certainly there was some tough ones. He split his nose in that one contest, right? You had to think that was pretty tough. Dropped him. Did he drop him early, or was that Jersey Joe who dropped him early? But I can't remember. But I know he split Rocky's nose. Yeah, that's tough right there. Rocky, tough dude right there to go through that. Especially, yeah, just think about your nose just being split, and you had to deal with that for the bulk of a fight. Insane. Dark Man, salute to you, Dark Man. Appreciate you being here, Dark Man. We're here talking about the great Charley Burley. You heard the name Charley Burley, representing Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, out of Bessemer, Pennsylvania. One of the best purely skilled boxers the sport has seen. Dark Man says, hello, gentlemen. Salute you all. Hope you all doing your best. I heard amazing stuff of Burley and what things he did in his career besides getting ducked by Robinson. Oh, yeah. That's an interesting one right there, Dark Man. Interesting point right there. Sugar Ray Robinson. That was a contemporary of Charley Burley's, and that would have been an excellent contest. Two top flight boxers going get it from a technical standpoint, a tactical fight for sure. And it would have been interesting to see how each dealt with the other. I mean, that was a fight that, from my understanding, had the potential of happening. It had the potential of happening, but it was one of those fights that wasn't necessarily sought, from Robinson's camp. Hey, I'm just saying. That's what I've heard. It wasn't sought from the great Sugar Ray Robinson's camp. And we know that how great Sugar Ray Robinson was, regarded as the GOAT, but the Charley Burley fight was one that seemingly wasn't a priority. Hey, you got other guys you can line it up against, so why do that? Why do that if you can go a different route? As I was saying, sometimes, if you have the choice or the pick of the litter, then why deal with such a stubborn type of, dealing with Charley Burley is like a fly just flying around your head. You just can't get to it. Just like you're trying, you got a swatter or whatever it is, but it's just like every time you try to get a shot, it gets away and you just want it gone. So do you want to deal with that? There's a choice you have to make. Then I guess you can think about it from a financial standpoint as well. I know the question came up on, or at least someone mentioned whether Charley was a draw. I don't know. A draw, when we bring the financial aspect in there. So to deal with that as well, whether he was a draw, I don't know. I don't know the drawing power aspect, but I'd imagine, put in the right place, right setting, would have done well. But that being said, I guess that's something you could take into account as well. We hear it talked about today, so we know it is a thing for sure. We know it's a thing. Dan, Charles is one of the top greatest fighters ever, without a doubt. Certainly he is. The great Cincinnati Cobra, Ezzard Charles, one of the greatest to have laced him up, and a fighter who deserves respect, more recognition, and mention. He does. He doesn't get mentioned as often, but he is someone who deserves more of that mention. Truly one of the greats for sure. Got to go take care of the next time. Salute to you, Mark. Appreciate you, Mark. A lot of great information you were sharing there, Mark. Great dialogue and content. So you are appreciated, Mark. So you have a good one. Enjoy your weekend as well. Darkman says, since there's regard to Boz there, the Cincinnati Cobra, as we mentioned. The Bartman says, I was watching Netflix. Now we'll watch this live stream before training. I hope you get better as fast as possible, Boz. Yeah, get well, Boz. Boz, we're sending you to get well. The flu, no joke. I had it once, and I can remember when, December of 2014. So that tells you it was no joke. So get well there, Boz, for sure. Dan says, Tyson's favorite movie, Gentleman Jim. I got to see it. So certainly, Dan, check it out. I think you'll like it, Dan, because they did do well with some of the historical accounts in terms of some of the big fights. As I was mentioning, the Joe Chowinski fight, then the John L. Sullivan fight. They had some other ones mixed in there as well, though they didn't dive into all of the contests like some of his greatest ones. But, hey, they had the Chowinski fight, the barge fight. The guy didn't look like Chowinski, but hey, no one would have been able to tell at that time anyway. But it was a good one. The barge contest went down, so they had some pretty good accounts, Dan. So certainly worth miles. Salute to Iron Mike Tyson. Hey, steward of the history. Darkman said, oh, yeah, Gentleman Jim is one of the best boxing movies I've ever seen. Salute to you, Darkman. Yeah, I just saw it for the first time. This was like last week. I think it was last weekend. I had mentioned, you know what? I'm going to check this out. So I went and checked it out. Black and white. But it was in pretty much high definition or whatever you call it. I mean, it had to be 1080p or above, or at least from thinking about the pixels tied to it, because it was crisp and clear. You wouldn't have thought that it was a 1940s movie outside of the black and white piece of it. It was really well done, well shot. So it was a good one. I enjoyed it. Now I have to see some others. Raging Bull. I mentioned I haven't seen Raging Bull. What the heck? But that's one I got to see. I know that's in black and white as well. And captures the essence of, from what I've heard, the great Jake LaMotta, who we were talking about. Then Ezzard, the only man to go 15 rounds at Marciano Rocky. Ezzard Charles, yeah. Hey, yeah, they had a good little rivalry there. Multi-fight rivalry. It's always good to get multi-fight rivalries, kind of what I was harkening on a little bit earlier, out of some of these elite top-level fighters, and that's a treat for the fans, of course. Treat for the fans. So we all win in those situations. I'm better already, but just not 100. Okay, gotcha, Boz. Gotcha. Getting there. Then Raging Bull is required for all 86 fights to watch. Certainly. Hey, I got to watch it as well there, Dan. I got to watch it. Then you got to watch Gentleman Jim. For those, maybe just me, who haven't seen Raging Bull, that's next on the list right there. That is next. The vibe, nothing more irritating than a pesky fly. Certainly. Darkman says, sadly, I've seen this happen. GOAT boxers being avoided by the faces of boxing in those eras for fear to lose, because it's a sport where losers sadly forgotten by most of the viewers and affect their legacy. Yeah, it is one of those things. Certainly, if you can avoid such, or you don't have to go that route for a multitude of reasons, then yeah, there are some, I guess you can say, outages or means by which you can, continue to thrive, do your thing. We won't say that, because clearly it didn't affect Sugar Ray Robinson just from an overall standpoint. He's still regarded as the greatest of all time. It's just one of those things, I think Dan mentioned it earlier. Can't fight them all. Certainly can't fight them all. That would have been a hell of a fight right there, though. It would have been a hell of a fight. That's sort of like right now with Canelo Benavidez. It just seems like that fight is just meant to happen. And we're getting everything but that particular contest. We're getting some fights in or around that same weight. But why are we not getting the fight that seems to be the absolute best fight for the division as a whole at 168 pounds? Canelo versus David Benavidez. Similar to, why didn't we get Sugar Ray Robinson versus Charley Burley? Seem to be two of the best, with some very good and interesting styles that would have meshed well, but it didn't happen. Rodolfo, where did Rodolfo go? Rodolfo probably bounced out, hold it down in Cali, out there getting it in. Darkman said, because it's the fact that in some cases like Dempsey Gray was apparently a fight that didn't capture a lot of people's attention, but for me, in cases like Canelo, it's obvious that he fears the top mandatory fighters like Benavidez, Morrell, Triple G in his peak, and more boxers. Oh, salute to you there, Darkman. Hey, I was just saying that, Darkman. I was at least talking about the Benavidez one. That would have been, that's one of the best in boxing right there, or at least one of the best to be made. Think about Crawford Spitz being made. I'd say that's number one in that top 5 range. At least it was Canelo Benavidez. Hopefully, neither one of them takes a step back that makes the luster of that go away. You already have people mentioning Canelo no longer looking the same and all of that, but he's still, top level. So Benavidez would be ideal, but hopefully we don't get a setback that forces that to be no longer what it was. Like that third Triple G fight, I wasn't clamoring for it, and seemingly it wasn't needed in that capacity as well, because it turned out to not be a good fight, the worst of the series, which I guess you can expect just given the circumstances. Max Duran, salute to you, Max Duran in the building. Appreciate you. Says, that's why I don't really like Mayweather. He was great, no doubt, but he waited for Pacquiao to get old and duck Triple G. That would have been an interesting one right there. Whether or not, I don't think he would have went up there to take on Triple G. It probably would have been done at a catch weight of some type, which may have altered things to a certain degree. So, but certainly that Pacquiao fight should have happened in 2012, 2011. What about 2013? 2014? Oh, no, we had to wait till 2015. Yeah, sometimes it just takes so dang long. Now, to his credit, both of them were older, I guess you can say, on the back end of their career. He was older than Pacquiao, but there were points in which both of them were in the top of their game. A lot more wear and tear came Pacquiao's way by the time they finally got in there. But that being said, we got it. Just wasn't the fight that we thought it would be, even though it still broke all those records and all that stuff. Everybody wanted it. Man, just think of how great it would have been had it happened 4 or 5 years earlier. Insane there, Max. Insane. Alexander says underrated middleweights, the great Marcel Cerdan. Marcel, I need to learn a bit more about Marcel Cerdan, the French middleweight. I know he was top flight, though. Unfortunately, died in the midst of his career in a plane crash. Some people tied some kind of little interesting, I guess, scenarios behind that. But that being said, Marcel Cerdan, top flight for sure. One of those tough middleweights, and could box, mix it up. Wasn't the tallest of guys, but he had that grit to be able to, have a pretty solid career, become a legend in the game. You could say pretty much a legend in the game right there. The great Marcel Cerdan. That's a good one right there, Alex. We need to do something on Marcel Cerdan. I've thrown him up in a little fantasy fight scenario, but yeah, there's more I want to dive into on the great Marcel Cerdan. He's a good one for sure. He's a good one. Dan says Holman Williams, 163 wins. Yeah, that's insane. Just think about that, folks. 163 wins. Miss me with these 40 fights, 50 fight career, 163 wins. Holman Williams right there. Need to dive into him a bit more right there. Another Black Metal Row alum right there. Rival of Charley Burley's. Holman. Very, very good. Very solid boxer right there. And he mixed it up with a lot of great fighters as well and held his own, stood out. He's one of those names as well, goes underrated, doesn't get mentioned much. But Holman, certainly top flight. I don't know if we have any footage of him. Let me see. Do we have any footage of Holman Williams? I feel like we don't. Let me see. Oh, yeah, we do have that, him against Young Gene Buffalo. I thought that might have been it. I couldn't remember if that was him or Eddie Booker, but yeah, it's only 19 seconds, so we don't technically, I guess, really have much. We have 19 seconds of Holman Williams against Young Gene Buffalo. He could fight Young Gene Buffalo. I've seen his name pop up on a number of resumes. He's pretty solid. But we have a little bit of footage of Holman Williams. And when I say a little bit, that might be an overstatement. 19 seconds. Which really, that's not much. There's not much. But we have accounts. As mentioned, we do have accounts. Darkman said it pisses me a lot that in cases like Canelo, organizations can scale Canelo as the best pound for pound, but DC organization is ignoring rules if you don't face Benavidez. Yeah, it's crazy how those those bodies, those sanctioning bodies are. On one hand, they'll take a fighter, strip the title. Then on another hand, they'll not strip it from other fighters. I think Jamal Charlo still champion at middleweight subcapacity or something of that nature, which is crazy, right? He's been out for 2+ years. But then Canelo, they don't strip him of anything. Yeah, it is. Sanctioning bodies. Interesting. Sanctioning bodies are very interesting. It's good to have the belts, but there's an interview out there where Bernard's talking about, I guess, Cazero mentioned it. Like, what are these sanctioning bodies doing? What are they doing with the money? What's going on? I don't know. Now, so the spell checker should have been boxed, not biz. Oh, you're good. You're good there, Alex. Hey, it happens for sure. It happens. Dark man, I'm not a champion, but I don't think you must be one to point out the fact that you can't name yourself champion without facing the best and win against them. Where do y'all see? Where do y'all saw Ali or Graham beating them? What's the last part? Oh, yeah. Older boxer cherry picking for lower weights, higher weight class, and then call themselves the best. They face the best of their moment, and if they didn't, at least they tried. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, sometimes we get caught up in the whole wins and losses thing, but certainly that doesn't necessarily define a fighter. All wins and losses are not created equal. That's something I know I've said often, Dark man. So you make a great point. If you're fighting, you're competing against the best. And one thing I know, I said, if you fight long enough against high level competition, you'll eventually lose. There are ways of working yourself around it. But if you're fighting the absolute best for the duration of your career and you fight long enough, yeah, you're gonna lose. It happens for sure. So that's why it's one of those things where, hey, it's a fight. You can't win every fight. And as others point out, in other sports and all that stuff, some of them team sports, but you just think about even individual sports, tennis, golf, Tiger Woods. I mean, even when he was at his peak, it's not like he won every single tournament, but that didn't take away from his greatness, right? Same with Phil Mickelson. Think about tennis, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, freaking Roger Federer, Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi. These are just some names I know, of course. Serena, Venus. You don't win every single thing. Just because they've lost doesn't mean that they're now no longer great. That's the same with boxing. If you lose, it's a fight. You can lose fights. It happens. It happens. It's one of those things, but I'm with you there. Challenge yourself against the best. Hey, bounce back from it. Come back. You can come back stronger. We've seen that happen. But some fighters lose. They come back. They bounce back. And we still hold them in the highest regard we can. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Max Duran, if you're the best, fight the best. That's what I think. But it is what it is. Certainly, Max. Certainly. I mean, I don't think it's asking for much. Best fighting the best. Why not? I mean, that's what it's all about, right? To be the best, or at least you want to get to the top. You want to hold the belt. You want to make all the money. Then, yeah, you should be fighting the best who are trying to get to that same spot. Marcel, the Moroccan bomber, Sudan, but he was Algerian. Okay, cool. Algerian. Oh, Marcel was Algerian. Okay, good stuff there. I associated him with France, but he's Algerian. But I associated him with France. Oh, I guess he was on a flight in France, and he fought in France a lot. Maybe he lived there. Good stuff. Yeah, I need to learn more about Marcel. I know of him, but certainly good stuff there, Dan. Algerian, interesting. Didn't know that. I associated him with France. Let me see. Oh, we lived in Morocco. French Montana. French Montana's from there. You know what that is, Boz? French Montana. But Morocco. So he was Moroccan. So Marcel Cerdan, Moroccan folks, Algerian, born in Morocco, or he was Algerian, but lived in Morocco. I have a Moroccan tagine out there, in there on the table in the kitchen. Great food from Morocco. I had a buddy, he just went there. I need to visit there myself. Darkman says, old boxer or cherry picker from a lower weight class. And then Colin says, oh, yeah, right. That's what we were talking about. The Bronze Boy Jay. Salute to you, Bronze Boy Jay. Holding it down. Regardless, I think any version of Floyd would have beat Pacquiao stylistically. Certainly. Yeah, I felt that, that may have very well been the case right there. The Bronze Boy Jay, that Bronze Boy. Yeah, you're right. It would have been tough to deal with just to try and break him down. Probably would have been a more exciting fight, though it did have moments, but certainly, yeah, it just would have been a tough style to deal with. Because Mayweather is certainly the better boxer, and that's no question right there. So Pacquiao would have had to try and find him, regardless of the scenario. Would have had to try and find him. So you're right on that one. Salute to the Bronze Boy Jay. Check him out, folks. Appreciate you dropping by. Always great dialoguing. Dan says Lamata says Sudan was the greatest besides Sugar Ray Robinson. Hey, that speaks volumes right there. We know Lamata knows. Lamata was lucky Sudan injured his shoulder in that fight. Good stuff. Sudan beat Holman Williams. Hey, big time right there. So he was in there. I know he mixed it up with some top flight guys. Holman Williams, one of them. Sudan basically fought Lamata one arm. Got you there, Alexander. That's crazy to think about that. But yeah, getting those type of accolades from Jake LaMotta, I think that is a big thing for sure. Tough game. Hurt is hurt. Marcel quit on his stool. Couldn't fight anymore. Doesn't take anything away. Lamar, I saw a film of fighters around in French. Looks like Lamar was getting better. Okay, that's worthy. I need to check that out. Yeah, I need to check out more on Marcel Cerdan. I know some hold him in very high regards. I did a fantasy matchup thing of him and I think it was Manzone or something like that. But Marcel Cerdan, I need to look. Hey, I need to learn more about him. This is good stuff. This has me intrigued. I've seen some clips of him for sure, but yeah, Nadal, not for dog. Gotcha. Not Nadal. What, Rafael Nadal, right? Rafael Nadal. I must have mixed that up right there. You're funny. So Don lived in France. Okay, gotcha, Max. Okay, yeah, I was associating him with France. So that's what it is. He was French, but born in colonial Algeria. His mom. Okay, good stuff. I was hey, putting me on game here. Good stuff. No, he came to France, but never lived there. Hold up. He had an affair with Edith Piaf. Hold up, Bob. Stop putting his business out there now. Don't be putting his man business out there. He was French like LaMotta was Italian, but Algeria was a colony of France. Anyhow, back there. Okay, good to go. Yeah, then until 1956. Dortmund is actually ashamed that a lot of fighters, not just boxing, sometimes lose. These damn casual treat them so bad and think they don't have level. Yeah, certainly they do. They are top flight. Regardless if you take a loss right there. Wins and losses, they come and go. But how do you continue to maintain? How do you continue to build upon your legacy for sure? 56 is when they started to fight for independence. Hey, and got it. Can't blame them. Ended in 61. Were you around back then, the boss? That's because France used to own Algeria as a colony, so Algeria was culturally connected to France. Okay, good stuff there, Bronze Boy Jay. Good stuff. All right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's the tie right there. Those are the French ties for Marcel Cerdan. So Algeria. Okay, good stuff. Man, look, I'm going to have to dive into some Marcel Cerdan stuff now. Vi said no, but my dad was 12. Gotcha. Yeah, I figured you weren't around then. Alexander says, when I was in the army, we studied the Algerian insurgency, classic coin conflict. Gotcha. Hold up now. So who is this? I know there's a conflict going on right now between. Oh no, it's not Algeria. No, yeah, it's not Algeria. But I know the Algerian flag, green, white, red. I forget what that thing is called, but North Africa right there. But that's good stuff there, Alex. Their Independence Day was July 5th. Oh, July 5th. Oh, you could celebrate that entire week then, I guess, technically. Damn, still got it. All right. That's what's up there, boys. Still do. But no, good stuff right there. So salute to Marcel Cerdan, one of those guys who, he's a name in the sport of boxing for sure, held in high regards. No doubt about it. So I need to look up more on the great Marcel Cerdan. Maybe discussion warrants at some point in the future, but I want to know more on him. But yeah, Charley Burley, of course, we know about how great of a fighter he was. And man, one of those individuals that we can certainly tip our hats to. One of the best that the sport has seen. So yeah, he he kind of ended, I didn't get to mention some of the other ones. He fought Jack Chase as well. This was another Black Murderers Row middleweight champion of California. So he had the California State Championship. That's Jack Chase, but he's another one of those guys who was pretty solid, mixed up in or around that era. But Charley Burley, man, hell of a fighter for sure. Very hot to have an Independence Day there, as Vi says. In those countries, always is, I guess. Yeah, I guess technically for sure. Hot time of year. Yeah, without a doubt. July, man, the heart of July, just thinking about being there in Algeria, Morocco, or anywhere around there, yeah, I'd imagine it is pretty hot, especially with this type of summer that we're having, where seems like everywhere things have heated up. It's been hot here, freaking, it's crazy. So, buddy's house this past weekend, and Virginia, it had I guess with the heat index and all, it felt like 98 degrees. And then you go down to like Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, it felt like 102 degrees. That's not far off, right? 98 and 102 degrees. Really, if you're just in the heat of it, the thick of things, I don't think you're really going to tell the difference. It's just hot. But that goes to show you a lot to deal with. So I can only imagine there in the desert, or at least some areas that are desert-like there around those parts. See the Raging Bull, must see. Dan, yeah, you know what, Dan? I might have to watch that tonight. I might have to watch that tonight. Boz saw it as a boy. It was about probably not even 10. So you've seen it that once there, Boz? If you want to learn how it was boxing in the 40s and 50s, the Raging Bull. Okay. Yeah, I know you mentioned that, Dan. When he beats up Tony Gennaro because his wife thought he was handsome. Tony Gennaro. Hey, I know Tony. Greatest fight scenes. Okay. I mean, he laid out an extra hard beating on him. Oh, this is in real life, huh? He got to an extra a little too much. So I heard that, De Niro, he really got into that role. The great Jake LaMotta. I got to check it out there, Dan. It really captured the era. Greatest movie ever made. See, got me hyped up there, Dan. I watched Gentleman Jim. I said I was going to go back and watch something the last time around, and I went and watched Gentleman Jim, so I'm going to watch the Raging Bull. I remember I was going to watch it first, as a matter of fact. Then I saw it was like 2 hours and something. I said, you know what? I'm going to wait. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to watch something. So I'm going to watch Gentleman Jam. But it was almost 2 hours. So technically, I guess, it still was fairly long. So I'm going to watch it for sure. I'm going to watch it. Without a doubt. He ain't pretty no more. Cool. A famous line from there. All right, gonna do that. So yeah, the great Jake LaMotta, one of the greats, one of the middleweights. So yeah, but folks, we talked about Charley Burley. Probably could have dove in a bit more, but I think you get the picture, you get the gist of it. Charley Burley, one of the greats that the sport has seen, and Jake LaMotta, someone we did a little fantasy matchup, could have potentially faced. Jake was made of the hardest stuff, man. Got you there, the Boz. You'll never be the same after Raging Bull. All right. Yeah, I'm hyped up about it now. Certainly got to watch it. Certainly. I have to watch this. It's meant to be. Sad, the first and last scene. All right. Don't start giving away spoilers there, Boz. Don't start with these spoilers now. I'm not a spoiler type guy, even though I gave away a spoiler to Rodolfo on the book, The Ice Punch. But no, cool. I guess some of it you kind of know some things. Does Jake himself make a cameo in the movie? You know how they do that sometimes? Does Jake make a cameo in it? Alexander Cameron. Charley was a great one. There's a YouTube channel with a video of him. Imagine Burley versus Zell. Oh yeah, Burley versus Tony Zell. Yeah, that would have been a heck of one. A heck of a fight right there. But Zell would have had to get to him for sure. He would have tried to get to him. Burley being elusive, step back. Oh, so he doesn't make a cameo. I see there, Dan. He doesn't make a cameo. That would have been cool. Charley with Jake sitting there in the front row of his own contest, traveling time. That would have been interesting. The Boz spoiler: aliens invading the end. What the heck, there, Boz? Come on, man. Come on. He knocks out Rocky Balboa. Also, he went up against him. Tell me this went down in Philly. But no, good stuff. But no, I'm gonna check it out. It's like it's meant to be. I have to watch it here tonight. I have to watch it. No excuse right here. It's meant to be for sure. I had to see. I had to see what's up. Maybe be back on tomorrow, maybe. But then again, I don't know. We're celebrating my mother-in-law's birthday. Happy birthday for sure. So we'll have to see. It's gonna be a all-day thing potentially. So maybe not on tomorrow. Maybe later. We'll see. Have no subject at this point, but we could probably discuss someone. Just gonna have to think about it. Think about it. Zale, one of the greatest middleweight champions. I want to dive into that rivalry between Grail and Rocky, or Zale and Graziano for sure. But Tony Zale, man of steel, as Bob said. Oh yeah. This was the time of the war, World War II. Yeah, some of those boxers. Yeah, you had to put things on pause. Life went on pause for many. Which is very interesting. Oh, thanks to Boz. Yeah, we're gonna enjoy. But I want to dive into Tony Zale and Graziano. So Alexander, remember the Paul Newman film, The Hustler? Jake had a small part in it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't remember that one, but interesting that Jake was in it. Paul Newman. So he was in. He played Rocky Graziano too, right? So in that movie, somebody up there like me or something like that. Which is interesting. Oh, he's a bartender in there. Okay, cool. Old Jake, he's made an appearance there. That's good stuff. I like when that happens, a little low key. I know Stan Lee would make little low key appearances in the Marvel films at points, which is pretty cool. And Quentin Tarantino, low key, be in films at points as well, doing little small roles. They're pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna check out Raging Bull. I got to do that one. Then I'll see what the next one is. Some of these great films out there. Jake Dean got his own TV show with Fat Man. Bad joke. Yeah, maybe I don't get it there, boss. Maybe I don't get it. The joke's on me. But no, cool. But man, hey, this is great. I appreciate, everyone on a Thursday night dropping by as we talked. Little Charley Burley, one of the great middleweights the sport is seeing, great welterweights as well. He traversed up the weights, which was not unusual, especially for fighters during the period. Hey, you're trying to get to where you could get you that gain that you needed financially and in standing. Jake and the Fat Man was an old show. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know of that one right there, Vaz. Nothing to do with LaMotta. Got it. But the Jake. But yeah, remember, no, it's great being able to chat here about Charley Burley, as always, highlighting the history of the sport and some of the great competitors who've laced them up over the history. More to come for sure. I'm working on a video as well, of course, that will be one of those animated videos we'll get out at some point soon. I have a number of them I've been working on, as a matter of fact, but at varying stages. But I've honed in on one. I think I know what the next will be. I need to press on those. So sometimes, it takes a little time, but we're coming. But in the meantime, the latest one out there, of course, is John L. Sullivan in Black and White. Be sure to check out that video on the channel if you want to get more of an in-depth look at some of the contests or fighters that John L. Sullivan could have faced or that potentially would have faced. And for varying reasons, they did not go down, but it's very interesting. It's a very interesting bit. Dan, Raging Bull, greatest movie period. Of course, the greatest boxing movie, Fat City, great boxing drama, 1972. Okay, Fat City. Didn't know of that one right there. It had Curtis Coates. Oh, I know old Curtis Coates. So he's in there. Okay. Fat City. Didn't know of that. I need to look that up to make sure I remember that. Fat City. Yep, 1972. Oh, Art Aragon, Curtis Coates, Al Silvani. Oh, okay. Cool. That's pretty awesome. Curtis Copes. Yeah, I ran across Copes in some settings. I forget. But yeah, tough fighter right there. Curtis Copes. Worthy of mention for sure. Former champion. World champion, that is. Stacy Keach. Alex says, a couple more boxing movies to check out. City of Conquest. James Cagney, Body and Soul, starring John Garfield. Okay. Oh, then we got one with Jeff Bridges in there, or Jeff Bridges maybe in that one. So yeah, good stuff there, Alex. So that's City for Conquest, Body and Soul, City for Conquest, City for Conquest. Okay, 1940 right there. And that Body and Soul, 1947 film. Charlie Davis. Let me just search it. Okay. City for Conquest. All right. Yeah, I had to look that up right there. So there's a boxer. Is he a boxer in City for Conquest? Oh yeah, I see. Danny quits boxing due to his damage eyesight. Okay, cool. Cool. I had to check those out there, Alex. Good stuff. You know, historic movies right there, I imagine. You know, I don't mind it. You know, I like the history of the sport in itself. So I don't mind it. I believe real life boxer appeared there, but not sure which. Okay. Latin America one. Okay, cool. Tobias Vicente Rodon. Okay. I know of him. I know of him. Not his career, but I know of him for sure. Unique story. Okay. Yeah, Al Silvani. I didn't know him. Was Lamada's quarterman and Alexis Arguello too. Long time. Okay, that's it. That's pretty cool right there. Dan, Body and Soul, great movie. Also set up with Ryan. Okay. Cool. Yeah, good stuff. Appreciate that, Alex, Dan, the bod. We are dropping those gems, so those are worthy for sure. Those listening, getting you some film gems out there to check out for sure. Body and Soul, City for Conquest, Fat City, of course, The Raging Bull. The Raging Bull. Oh, Paul Bright. I didn't even see that. Raging Bull is overrated in my opinion, but hopefully you like it. Gotcha, Paul. I've heard good things about it. I've heard good things, for sure. Body and Soul. So Alexander Campbell, the setup with Robert Ryan probably had the greatest, much realistic fight scenes. Okay, the setup. Okay, good to go. The setup. 1949 right there. Oh yeah, these are some so film noir boxing drama. Okay. Old has-been boxer right there. B.O. Coker's. Okay, cool. All right, yeah, I'm gonna try and check some of these out for sure. Good stuff there, Alex. Robert Ryan's the setup 1949. Yeah, I like the setup with Robert Ryan. Okay, good stuff. Follow you like that? Ryan boxed a little himself, I think. Okay, cool. That's good to go. Hey, so add some mix. That's probably why they are. The Harder They Fall is a great boxing movie. Oh yeah, with Max Baer. Is that Max Baer, right? Yeah, by college, I think. Let me see. Max Baer, I think, is The Harder They Fall. I see a 2021 film called The Harder They Fall, but it's not that one for sure. No, Humphrey Bogart. Oh yeah, so Max Baer is in it. Is this the one with Primo and Primo Canera and Max Baer? I think that might be the one where they're play fighting, I guess you can say, in the film, but had shades of the real fight. I believe it might have been Alexander Cameron. Harry Greb is mentioned by Ryan in the setup. Okay, mentioning the great Pittsburgh windmill. Okay. Like, hey, he knows what he's talking about then. He knows this stuff. And then Bob Fitzsimmons is credited with the harder they fall quote. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd imagine, a number of them. Yeah, I heard some mention Sullivan and all that stuff. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. But yeah, I got to check that out with Madcap Maxey in there. He certainly had the physique and the size for a heavyweight. Okay, cool. This is the Ryan cat. I take it. We were talking at the end of the night. Okay, so 1956 Max Bear. Yeah, the harder they fall. Ryan was a lean, mean 6'4". Okay, hey, that's what's up. Yeah, it could have been a heavy in there. It could have been a heavyweight, mixing it up, no doubt. Just good stuff. All right, salute to you, Paul. Salute to Bob, 1956, Bogart's last movie. Okay, I had to check that one out. The harder they fall, because I remember that from Max Baird. I guess it wouldn't be the one that was him taking on Primo. I guess that's just one later in career, I guess. But that being said, I know Max was doing some stuff while he was in his career as well there in the prime portion, I guess you could say. But cool. But no, this is good stuff right there. Some movies to check out, folks. Movies to check out. Some classic movies. Old school, black and white. But they hit just quite the same. After watching Gentleman Jim, I was like, you know what? I've been missing out. So I'm going to try to check out some more of these. So, yeah. Good stuff, though, folks. Man, it's been a great time. Just checking out. He opened his tent in the setup. Has been a real live fighter, Hall Baylor. Okay. Have been a real live fighter, Hall Baylor. Okay. Hall Baylor. Or Hal Baylor. Oh, Hal Baylor. Okay, Hal Baylor. Oh, okay. No, Marine Court. Old Marine there. Old Hal. That's good stuff. A little overcritically Primo Canera in 1956. Okay, so they were mentioning Max and Primo in there. Okay, gotcha. Critical of old Primo, huh? Oh yeah. I can only imagine because Primo was a part of the Mussolini era. And imagine he got some collateral, even though he was being pretty much used as a pawn for Mussolini and crew. Good guy though, Primo, in terms of just seemed like a big jovial guy. But yeah, he was used as a pawn, of course, during that period. Italy fascists, yeah, certainly there, Dan. Yeah, I know what you're saying for sure. So they mentioned some of that in there. So yeah, I had to check that out too. Because that's one that's been on my list right there. The harder they fall, I do recall mention of it, certainly just from digging into Max Baird. So I had to certainly add that one to the mix to see sooner rather than later for sure. But cool. We have movies, folks. Hey, gonna call this thing a night here. Not too bad. Got to get in and get a little stuff. Got some good movies out of the mix. Hey, you got time to go back, check out a movie yourself as well. I'm going to try and check out The Raging Bull. Looking forward to it. Then we'll see what's next from there. A lot of fixed fights in the history of boxing. Most of Primo's fights is legitimate. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I know some that had some pretty interesting situations behind them. But we did have the Boz. Cornero's wife was Croatian. The Kroot. Okay, cool. That's awesome right there. Alex says Hal Baylor was also in Sands of Iwo Jima. Oh, cool. Marine playing a Marine, huh? That's the way to do it. Hey, if I'm needed, I'll see what I can do. But that's the way to go right there, Alex. Marine playing a Marine. Iwo Jima, we know about that. But yeah, salute to all the vets out there. Simplify. Thank you for your service, all that good stuff. And man, salute to everyone in here who's been kicking it with us as we've been discussing things, movies and all. So thank you, Dan, the Boz, Alex, Paul Bright, etc. Max. We had so many people drop by today that it's insane. I appreciate everyone stopping in. Hey, we'll probably do this again here fairly soon, maybe tomorrow, but I'll let you know. Probably earlier than later. Earlier than later. Take care there, Alex, as well. Take care all. Monkey on my back story of Bonnie Ross. Okay, I'm gonna see. Okay, I'm gonna check that. I'm gonna check that out right there, Dan. You're throwing some other gems out there. That's 57 right there. Oh wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's insane right there. I'm gonna check that out there. So many of them coming right there. Appreciate that, Dan. All right, Paul, Boz. Oh, thanks everyone who dropped by. Definitely take care. Man, we're gonna be back to talk some boxing. Always a good thing. Talk about boxing history, baby. Gotta love it. But man, salute to everyone. Take care. Have a good rest of your night. William Holden, Golden Boy. Them gems right there you're dropping, Dan. Keeping it, hey, we're keeping it going. Appreciate you, Bob. Thanks again for the super chat, all that good stuff. So yeah, we'll be back in the mix, folks. But thank you for being here. And for those listening to Playback Gang, hope to catch you next time.